Hey, my friend. Tonight we slip through the basilica's walls, ducking into a narrow alley steeped in pine resin scent in Constantinople, 542 AD. Don't stack your pillows high just yet. This story, trust me, you won't survive the night unchanged. As the lights dim, picture a city where rats and their fleas play uninvited clerks, signing death warrants for 500,000 souls. Yet behind massive bronze gates, Byzantium's elite, draped in Tyrian purple, adorned with gleaming relics, still sip spiced wine, chasing dreams of peace. How did they dodge the plague's scythe? Toss aside glittering myths, no caped heroes, no miracles, just privilege, cunning, and a few dirty tricks. Hit like, subscribe, and tell me where you're listening from. Dim the lights, crank the fan for its sleepy hum, and board the dreariest history cruise you never knew you craved. Close your eyes. Well, squint just enough to imagine. Constantinople's dawn burns red, a Tyrian silk sash across the sky, seeping onto the marble tiles of Augustine Square. Each white stone, still dewy from night, catches a faint orange glow, shimmering like tarnished gold mosaic. In that soft light, pine resin from Hagia Sophia's oil lamps lingers, not yet overtaken by the foul stench creeping from underground drains, the plague's deathly reek. It slinks up sewer walls, coiling around ankles, whispering secrets no one wants to hear before their morning wine. At the edge of your vision, third step from the gate, a figure emerges. Domnina Megale Comnene. Don't crown her with a saintly halo. She's first the darling daughter of a tax official clutching the empire's purse strings, her wardrobe stuffed with Syrian linen, her mind sharp for numbers. Domnina wears a thin wool cloak, deep indigo threaded with silver. Not for style, but to fool cloth merchants' eyes. Darker hues hide city grime, saving wash water when clean water rivals vintage wine in price. She pauses, still as you hold your breath before sleep, then slips a soft leather notebook from her sleeve. Its cover bears a stylized Hagia Sophia dome in purple ink, a gift from her father at 19. Write what you will, but don't forget transport fees. Yet this morning, like the past 3 weeks, its pages hold no romantic trysts, only stark vertical slashes, each marking a plague case gleaned from the gatekeeper, old nursemaid, or trusted physician. The previous page's indentations scar the next. Domnina tucks a beeswax sliver to keep ink from bleeding. Imagine it glinting in dawn's light like a tempered glass phone screen. A rose scent wafts near her face, not from her skin, but a silk scarf masking her mouth. Constantinople buzzes. One drop of oil blocks fleas. No proof, but in crisis, hope's cheaper than salve. She wraps the scarf thrice, breathing lightly, heeding Dr. Theophanes' warning. Deep breaths invite toxic air. Picture it. Each inhale carries the faint clink of oil beads on silk, like a mouse click to follow. A ritual reminding you life sometimes hangs on a threadbare veil. Domnina eyes her latest note. Dies viginti quintus post primum mortem. Day 25 since the first death. Beside it, columns, cives divites, wealthy citizens, and pauperes, poor. The rich columns short, the poor's snakes to the page's edge. Not from callousness, math demands truth. The poor die 4 times faster, though bacteria don't discriminate. The gap lies in escape. Those with carriages, suburban villas, anti-evil relics, first-class tickets out of death's reach. She glances up, catching a cart rolling by, draped in coarse sacking, its jagged edges betraying bodies beneath. A wooden sign swings from its side, crudely carved. Theodoros o necrothaftis. Theodoros, burial for hire. The driver's heavy exhale hisses through gritted teeth like a bow dragged across a broken lyre's string. Domnina blinks, adding a slash. Hear the pen scratch? It's an ancient ASMR. Not keyboard clacks, but goose quill on goat skin, lulling like a forgotten hymn. 2 steps away, Augustaean's bronze-clad gate gleams, guarded by a gaunt soldier leaning on his spear. A small vinegar-soaked leather pouch, an acetabulum, hangs at his chest, believed to ward off miasma. Domnina jots. Vinegar's scent may not kill germs, but it kills breakfast's appeal. A fleeting smirk sparks and fades, like a meme flashing on your feed. In that moment, humor weaves through fear, like your fan's steady breeze cooling your spine. Behind her, a crow's harsh craw grates from the almshouse roof. They peck at discarded bread crusts, testing crispness before spitting them out. A defiant vibe straight from an internet comment section. Who says humans own attitude? Domnina glances at the crows, recalling folklore. They flock before the plague, God swings his scythe. She scribbles. 5 crows, northeast corner, est. 10% pop. Decline. A calculation blending mythic probability with tax office precision, epidemiology as a side hustle. Beyond, slanted sunlight cuts through wooden awnings, casting moving beams on passers-by's cloaks. Notice, when light hits an Armenian merchant's boots, he sidesteps into shadow, not for sunburn, but fear of toxic air lingering in warmth. Rumors claim plague vapor thickens in heat. Dawn's poetic glow, once sung by bards, becomes a laser of survival. Domnina notes, fear of sunlight, less morning market crowds, 15% less spread. See it? Sometimes health measures dodge decrees, woven from collective memory twisted into superstition. She shuts the notebook, pauses, then looks toward Pharos, the harbor lighthouse. Black soot stains tile rooftops, marks of cremation pyres too rushed for cemeteries. The smoke drifts skyward, thin as silk, yet Domnina sees it as a distress signal to the gods. In that moment, her smallest dawn whisper escapes the scarf. If rats are the message, we cut the line. Her voice floats, not threatening, but solving a personal equation. Stop rats, stop plague, stop death. Her hand, bearing a plain bronze ring, unflashy but sturdy, taps the marble ledge. 1, 2, 3. The rhythm mimics your bedside clock's pendulum. Tap done, she turns, heading down the slope to Paris town. But hold, she hasn't left Augustine yet. We keep her in Dawn's frame, letting the story seal like a wooden box's lid. Feel your eyelids droop? Let Domnina's steps, soft leather soles on stone, lull you. Tap, tap, tap. Each spaced for a breath, close enough to hold the tale's thread. A final paper scrap falls from the notebook, fluttering in the breeze. Scrawled in ink, Statistica est arma silentis. Statistics are the silence weapon. Hear the wind flip the page. In a city gripped by plague's unseen hand, a young woman clings to control by counting, a dull, steady task, her tether to sanity. Like you checking sleep stats on your phone, Domnina tracks death's toll to soothe herself with numbers. The sky shifts from pink to pale gold. Church bells clang 3 short notes, their echo rippling over the sparse square. The bells, Domnina's tapping steps, and the crow's idle caws weave a strange harmony. Not a victory march, nor a dirge, but a backdrop for a city pressing on. We, sleep's listeners, borrow it as white noise, letting drowsiness creep like Aegean waves lapping a ship's hull. Hold this final image gently. Domnina pauses under a marble awning, dust motes dancing around her rose-scented scarf, notebook clasped to her chest. No hero, no victim. She simply records, and in chaos, recording is survival. If your eyelids flutter shut now, let the notebook's scrawl fade, replaced by soft night. Your fan's hum becomes Marmara's breeze. Your heartbeat sinks with her leather soles. Steps on marble drift, drift into silence. Good night. The quiet counter passes her notebook to dream's oblivion. At a sultry noon, with Constantinople's sun dangling like a gold coin unsure of its pocket, mule carts slowed before the tax official's rear gate. The elite's exodus bore a sly nickname, Rest Cure. Elegant enough to mask panic, like Americans dubbing long lockdowns work from beach. No beaches awaited. The destination was a hillside estate, its high walls, private ponds, and bolted gates more secure than a bank vault. Domnina held the privilege of inspecting luggage, a task modern sisters might call road trip checklist, but with the stress of prepping a spaceship. First hauled to the courtyard, 4 casks of Malvasia wine. Terracotta amphorae, speckled with green mold, bore intact wax seals. Not for revelry. Old Dr. Theophanes preached it, warms the veins, fends off chill. Truth is, each fiery gulp could lull terrified nerves to sleep, a cheap sedative, outshining hired guards. Next came 2 calfskin-bound chests. Servants slung straps over wooden frames, shoulders buckling, for Justinian-era books weren't slim café paperbacks. Each parchment scroll was thick as black bread. One chest held tax ledgers, the other, Greco-Roman love poems Domnina's mother read through long nights. Tucked alongside, she slipped her half-finished plague tallies. Words need refuge, too. In an age when data lived on goatskin, hauling knowledge weighed like lugging Google Drive on donkeyback, yet Domnina believed even dull facts were stronger talismans than priests' prayers. Then, the aristocrat's sunscreen. a finger bone of St. George, nestled in an ebony box lined with red silk. A gloved servant bore it two-handed, as solemn as passing the Super Bowl trophy. The relic, small as a pinky joint, carried colossal spiritual weight, believed to repel miasma, slow plague's march. Ask for science, get a wry smile. Science lags, bones here, fleas are there. Funnily, that bone, once flaunted at a spring feast, now doubled as a sanctified lifeline, blurring the line between decor and survival, thin as a wine-glass rim. After wine, books, and relic, the list veered to essentials hard to name. Armenian wool blankets for mountain nights, barrels of barley grain, ancient MREs against hunger, a basket of wine-steeped garlic cloves, reeking like a sneeze, rumored to repel fleas. If you've smelled garlic butter at a late-night tailgate, triple the pungency, add a dash of mortal dread. That's the stench wafting across the courtyard. Domnina signaled to tie the garlic basket at the cart's rear, like hanging air freshener in a trunk, far from her nose. She loathed its eye-stinging bite. By late afternoon, the mule carts lined up, wooden wheels chalked. Cart frames scraped the gate's plaster, leaving white dust trails like talcum powder, evoking resort check-ins, suitcases gliding on marble lobbies. But instead of a concierge bell, an old mule's groan rang out. A servant tossed aboard a small bronze cage inside a crowing Sarah's rooster, living alarm clock, potential exorcism offering if things soured. In crisis, every item pulled triple duty, like a smartphone doubling as shrine and hello. Domnina locked the hand chest, tucking the key under her hairband, a trick for valuables, like tourists stashing credit cards and socks against pickpockets. She circled for a final check, sandal heels tapping stone in a slow clack. Clack. A metronome calming all. Gate guards eyed the noble caravan like black SUVs fleeing Manhattan mid-outbreak, sleek, discreet, ignoring sidewalk stares. Legends painted aristocrats as sacrificing wealth for the people, but today, bluntly, they saved themselves first. Charity could wait if they survived. As the iron gate's hinges squealed, Domnina glanced up at Emperor Justinian's statue, cross in hand, bronze tarnished green, as if he too caught miasma. She mused, even immortal, you'd flee. No jab, just truth. An empire rested on its laboring base. When the bottom crumbled, the golden peak wobbled. The carts rolled, wooden wheels crushing pine cone husks, releasing sweet resin, like cotton candy warmed by fairground nostalgia. Along Misi Street, shops shuttered fast. Wooden planks doubled as closed signs. A cloth merchant stuffed his last bolt into a lock. His eyes clung to the caravan like a hot stock as investors fled, leaving FOMO stragglers dazed. Rest cure, whispered a truth. Those with coin acted early. Those awaiting miracles ate wheel dust. Domnina, cushioned in luxury, felt a pang for faces behind barred windows. A gaunt old woman, her daughter-in-law hauling dry kindling, a grandchild clutching crumbled barley bread. She knew their shadows paid for her smooth ride. Guilt hovered like smoke, odorless but throat-scorching. Beyond the city gate, the stone road sloped into a sun-dusted valley. Servants draped sackcloth over mules' backs to prevent blisters, a small detail dictating the convoy's pace. Occasionally, Domnina uncorked an amphora, pouring Malvasia for a weary driver. Its burn soothed aching biceps. It echoed today. Espresso shots saving at workers past midnight deadlines. Across eras, basic needs kept their wry grin. The wheels' rumble on jagged stones pulsed like a steady heartbeat. Listener, breathe deep. Feel that clatter morph into your clock's tick, easing you into calm's first layer. Beyond the city, wind carried less deathly reek, tinged with wild fennel from canal banks. Domnina lifted the cart's curtain, letting breeze tease her hair, but snapped it shut as dust stung her eyes. She recalled the physician's warning. Dust carries fleas. Her thin face veil, an Instagram filter of silk, dropped again, parting her from a frantic gray world. On the hilltop, Para's estate tiles glinted faintly, the next chapter's destination, but our tale pauses mid-slope. Domnina opened her leather notebook, propped on a book chest, scrawling, Day 25 plus 1. Migration begins. A brief line, yet seismic. Each ink stroke marked empty homes, shuttered shops, orphaned children, or drivers hired at double pay. The numbers would spill to the next page, but tonight, space held only en route. At dusk, warm sunlight bathed mules in honeyed hues. The sky paled, pink clouds like a postmodern painter's lazy strokes. Domnina leaned into wool cushions, eyes heavy but wary. Sleep risked missing a warning horn or sudden jolt. The cart's sway lulled her, like slow TV footage of Nordic trains. Here, steel rails gave way to mule hooves and creaking leather straps. If you're on your bed, imagine your mattress trembling with Domnina's wheels. Your fan's hum blends with meadow breezes, your dim lamp a rising moon silvering the wine amphora. In that twilight cart, Malvasia's honeyed scent wafts. The relic rests silent, leather books warm nearby. Noble luggage, at its core, mirrors what we carry. Scraps of faith, bits of knowledge, something to feel safe. The caravan crawled uphill, shadows stretching like low notes on a score. As wheels crested, the last sunlight died, leaving a bruised sky. Here, the story pauses. Domnina blew out the cart's tallow lamp, and we, video listeners, can close our eyes, letting the wheels' echo fade. Tonight, let a cask of Malvasia lull you, leather books ward nightmares, and St. George's finger bone, believe it or not, guard your sleep. We stop here, not yet at the ancient quarantine resort. That's next. Inhale slow, exhale steady, like a mule pausing mid-chew. As your shoulders ease, hear the leather notebook snap shut. A quiet period. The escape's baggage is stowed. You, passenger on this tale's cart, hold a round-trip ticket to dreams. Good night. Dawn will tell more, if we return in time. Along Misi Street, Shops shuttered fast. Wooden planks doubled as closed signs. A cloth merchant stuffed his last bolt into a lock. His eyes clung to the caravan like a hot stock as investors fled, leaving FOMO stragglers dazed. "Rest cure," whispered a truth. Those with coin acted early. Those awaiting miracles ate wheel dust. Domnina, cushioned in luxury, felt a pang for faces behind barred windows. A gaunt old woman, her daughter-in-law hauling dry kindling, a grandchild clutching crumbled barley bread. She knew their shadows paid for her smooth ride. Guilt hovered like smoke, odorless but throat-scorching. Beyond the city gate, the stone road sloped into a sun-dusted valley. Servants draped sackcloth over mules' backs to prevent blisters, a small detail dictating the convoy's pace. Occasionally, Domnina uncorked an amphora, pouring Malvasia for a weary driver. Its burn soothed aching biceps. It echoed today. Espresso shots saving at workers past midnight deadlines. Across eras, basic needs kept their wry grin. The wheels' rumble on jagged stones pulsed like a steady heartbeat. Listener, breathe deep. Feel that clatter morph into your clock's tick, easing you into calm's first layer. Beyond the city, wind carried less deathly reek, tinged with wild fennel from canal banks. Domnina lifted the cart's curtain, letting breeze tease her hair, but snapped it shut as dust stung her eyes. She recalled the physician's warning. Dust carries fleas. Her thin face veil, an Instagram filter of silk, dropped again, parting her from a frantic gray world. On the hilltop, Para's estate tiles glinted faintly, the next chapter's destination, but our tale pauses mid-slope. Domnina opened her leather notebook, propped on a book chest, scrawling, "Day 25 plus 1. Migration begins." A brief line, yet seismic. Each ink stroke marked empty homes, shuttered shops, orphaned children, or drivers hired at double pay. The numbers would spill to the next page, but tonight, space held only en route. At dusk, warm sunlight bathed mules in honeyed hues. The sky paled, pink clouds like a postmodern painter's lazy strokes. Domnina leaned into wool cushions, eyes heavy but wary. Sleep risked missing a warning horn or sudden jolt. The cart's sway lulled her, like slow TV footage of Nordic trains. Here, steel rails gave way to mule hooves and creaking leather straps. If you're on your bed, imagine your mattress trembling with Domnina's wheels. Your fan's hum blends with meadow breezes, your dim lamp a rising moon silvering the wine amphora. In that twilight cart, Malvasia's honeyed scent wafts. The relic rests silent, leather books warm nearby. Noble luggage, at its core, mirrors what we carry. Scraps of faith, bits of knowledge, something to feel safe. The caravan crawled uphill, shadows stretching like low notes on a score. As wheels crested, the last sunlight died, leaving a bruised sky. Here, the story pauses. Domnina blew out the cart's tallow lamp, and we, video listeners, can close our eyes, letting the wheels' echo fade. Tonight, let a cask of Malvasia lull you, leather books ward nightmares, and St. George's finger bone, believe it or not, guard your sleep. We stop here, not yet at the ancient quarantine resort. That's next. Inhale slow, exhale steady, like a mule pausing mid-chew. As your shoulders ease, hear the leather notebook snap shut. A quiet period. The escape's baggage is stowed. You, passenger on this tale's cart, hold a round-trip ticket to dreams. Good night. Dawn will tell more, if we return in time. The final mule cart ground its wheels past the oak gate, sealing a grueling journey through dust and dread. Before Domnina, Pera's villa rose like a squared honey loaf, pale yellow stone walls, pocked with tiny air holes, catching the afternoon light in a Gruyere-like shimmer, as if half nibbled by a giant. By habit, she silently counted her pulse to quell nerves. 4, 5, 6. On the ramparts, carved grape-leaf patterns, weathered by frost, still traced wave-like curves, a reminder that, far off, the Marmara Sea breathed steady, plague be damned. Stepping onto the ceramic-tiled courtyard, the group's sandals clicked crisply. Each reddish-brown tile, polished smooth as an apple's skin, wove a herringbone pattern. Mortar joints trapped pine dust, wafting a sharp resin tang. Around the yard, mastic shrubs, Chios natives, stood trimmed waist-high, their resin ready to burn, sending smoke curling along the porch like a scented silk ribbon. At the front veranda, Dr. Theophanes waited. His gray sackcloth robe hugged a wiry frame, a flared copper vial in hand. He tilted his head to greet Domnina, then pressed a finger to his lips. Not mystic ritual, but to catch the telltale hack-hack of sickness. Hearing only distant crows and mules chewing straw, he flashed a relieved smile. Theophanes led Domnina along the colonnade, each round stone pillar wreathed in wilted laurel, leaves dark as old coins. Oil's not spent, he thought, still guarding us. With each step, Domnina sensed thicker air, like a coat of beeswax. No illusion. Behind the kitchen wall, Theophanes ran a DIY air purifier. Peek into that small room, breathe deep, exhale slow, lest virtual smoke slip your screen. By a stone oven, a copper pot, big as a laundry tub, bubbled fiercely. Inside, Theophanes mixed wine vinegar, thick honey, and crushed laurel leaves. The recipe, cribbed from an Alexandrian doctor, got a honey tweak to soften the fumes, like adding vanilla to modern scented candles. From the lid's gap, white vapor rose, climbing air currents, coiling around wooden beams, then drifting through a vent to the courtyard. The first whiff stung eyes. Theophanes scrawled on a wall-hung wax tablet with charcoal. Smoke burns eyes, but masks corpse stench. No lie. Vinegar's bite and honey's heft drowned the city's deathly breeze. If you, cozy on your pillow, hear your ceiling fan's whir, imagine it as that misty smoke, gentler, chasing germs from your mind, easing wary eyelids. With luggage unpacked, servants poured mastic resin onto a blue-glazed porcelain dish and lit it. The sticky mass crackled, spitting orange sparks. Its scent, mixed with vinegar, birthed an apocalypse perfume. Funnily, Domnina recalled spring galas, where incense repelled mosquitoes. Now, fleas carrying Yersinia pestis took their place, unmoved by lyre melodies. In the grand hall, the domed ceiling soared, whitewashed, yet tinged gold by silk-curtained windows. Dust motes floated like goldfish in a tank. Each caught dusk's rays, slowing time, as if you dropped a video to 0.5x speed. That's the rhythm you, drifting to sleep, need. Slow, steady, lulling. Domnina handed the book chests to servants for the study, then lingered at a marble table in the hall's center. A silver tray held 3 clay cups of warm Malvasia. Theophanes gave a faint smile, his hoarse voice sparing 4 words. Humid air, drink some. Minimal, but enough to loosen nerves. The wine melted on her tongue, tart sweet, blurring reality like a sepia filter. Outside, servants strung cloth ropes to mark clean and dirty zones. They buried wooden stakes, hanging lime powder sacks to dust wheels fresh from the city, a crude drive-through sanitization, same logic. Cut the germ's path. Theophanes directed with simple hand signs, words scarce. Finger pointing down meant sprinkle lime. Fist tapping post, tie rope. 5 fingers splayed then flipped. Cap the wine cask. A silent language, fitting where a cough sparked shudders. You, distant listener, can translate it to breaths. Inhale 4 counts, hold 2, exhale 6. Calming blood, softening muscles. Late afternoon, as mastic smoke waned, Domnina climbed honeystone stairs to a sloped roof balcony. Oil lamps laced with incense hung along the railing, sesame-soaked wicks glowing like countryside fireflies. From here, the villa's pond lay still, mirroring dusk's purple-orange. Olive leaves drifted on its surface, while fat golden carp below nibbled mosquito larvae, an eco-friendly pest control. Domnina leaned against a brick pillar, its cool stone soothing, like your cheek on crisp cotton sheets in summer. Below, Theophanes' voice carried, the clink of a copper spoon stirring the pot's final batch before dousing the fire. The hollow keng-keng rang like wind chimes, signaling the day's work done, night's curtain falling. Just then, old steward Argyros shuffled from the side gate, clutching the morning's Ceres rooster crate. He lifted the lid, letting the bird strut into a bamboo coop by the south wall. Sunrise's welcome. Argyros swore its crow drove off miasma, and Domnina, ever the number keeper, noted. Days it crowed on time, servants' spirits lifted. Slim data, but in an empire's chaos, any positive correlation was worth clutching. Dusk's glow faded, leaving a deep indigo haze. Sea winds shifted, slipping through the gate, swaying oil lamps. Incense and mastic scents dissolved, leaving a honeyed trace on the imagined tongue. Theophanes ghosted to his log, folding its last line. Air sealed, mind sealed. He believed clean air healed half. The rest was will. For you, American listener, snug in blankets, same advice. Mute phone pings, dim blue light. Let this video be your mental mastic, wafting through your breath's length. In the hall, servants scattered fine sand under the dining table, thwarting crumb-hunting insects. Their arms arced slowly, casting shadows like compasses plotting murder on the walls, a slow-motion shadow puppet dance. Sand swept, they withdrew noiselessly, locking wooden bolts with a soft clack, like a book's closing snap. Before bed, Domnina grazed her notebook's new page. A villa sketch, marking smoke vents, lime sacks, coop, reading nook, noting wind shift hours. To her, records were a wool blanket for the mind, steadying calm. You too, if your brain spins, map your bedroom, tag lamp, fan, water bottle, then fold the map, tuck it under your pillow for peace. A small water bell by the corridor chimed thrice. Argyros rigged it to ring with gusts, signaling blackout. All spare lamps off, one guard light kept. Theophanes doused the oven, sealing the copper lid. Final steam gurgled, then stilled. He touched the pot's edge, checking warmth, smiling satisfied. In this quiet, your heartbeat grows clear, like the cooling oven, steady, low, safe. Domnina drew the bed's silk curtain, settling on a sackcloth mattress stuffed with sheep's wool. She blew out the wick, moonlight seeping through window slats. Mastic lingered in her hair, Malvasia tingled her tongue, and laurel leaves rustle outside wove a lullaby. As her eyes closed, she held the image of thin white smoke. You hold it too, fragrant mist curling fears away, shooing them from dream's porch. Para's villa, on its first night, stood firm, a fortress of incense. Thick stone walls, clean ceramic tiles, vinegar-honey fumes formed a misty shield. Here, plague might knock, but faced barriers of smoke, lime, carp, and a pen-wielding girl's resolve. You, unseen companion, locked the gate, quenched the oven, and sank into the tale's mattress. Let sleep take night watch. When Ceres' roosters crow dawn, we'll turn the page, but that's next. Dream safe under Para's roof, where smoke rims your dreams in soft mastic glow. The first night at Para slunk through the window like a sleek black cat, leaving a silky stillness on every surface. After a jolting journey and an afternoon steeped in eye-stinging mastic smoke, the Honeystone Villa finally slowed its pulse to a dreamlike rhythm, like a heartbeat easing into sleep's soft graph. In the ceramic-tiled courtyard, incense oil lamps dimmed, their glow shimmering on moss-flecked walls, as if the crescent moon had melted into golden droplets, pooling here to guard the sheltered. From dew-slick steps, Domnina entered a long marble corridor where cold seeped from ancient walls like an underground spring. Oak doors, ajar just enough to tame the briny sea breeze, let hints of honeyed vinegar linger from the fumigation room. The faint clack of metal clasps on her bracelet tapped with each sandal step, weaving a languid sound, unhurried, unhaunted, like the heavy pull of a giant hourglass freshly turned. The corridor opened to a crescent-shaped veranda, where a marble table sat poised to catch night breezes off the pond. On it, a low copper lamp burned gentle as a firefly clinging to dense darkness. Its light gleamed on an ivory-hued barley bowl, silvering the curve of a spoon, a heirloom etched with time's scent. The metal's polished edges came alive in the flame, whispering tales of bygone plagues when silver was humanity's steadiest charm. Domnina drew a high-backed wooden chair, its edge grazing the floor with a soft creak that faded, like closing a book on your pillow before sleep. She let her indigo wool scarf slip to her shoulders, its aged sheep's wool scent a haven. A small barley bowl rested within reach. Grains, soaked cool for hours, bloomed soft and nutty, swirled with almond milk and wild honey, a glossy amber sheen steaming faintly, blending with incense. The bowl's wet rim glistened, dotted with green pistachios like islands in a milky river, anchoring the rich, creamy depth. She grasped the silver spoon, its cool metal pressing her palm, growing heavy as it scooped the viscous porridge. The spoon tapped the bowl with a faint ting, a quiver slicing the night, felt more in the chest than the ear. As the first bite slid over her tongue, her heart yielded oddly. Honey's gentle sweetness, almond milk's velvet cloak, and pistachio's crisp snap, like kindling breaking in a hearth. Across, on a dark olive wood tray, lay a plate of smoked salted lamb. Thin slices, russet red, tiled like roof shingles, their white fat rims hardened translucent, ready to melt on the tongue. Each piece pulsed with cedar smoke, black pepper, and fennel seed, curling up the nose, thickening air already laced with pine resin. The salt's sharp balance tamed the barley's sweetness, pulling her between craving and contentment. 3 fingers away, a Malvasia wine jug sat, its pine resin seal removed since departure. The pale blue-glazed ceramic caught the lamp, rippling like a tiny lake. A beeswax cap, marked by a servant's hasty thumbprint, sealed it. In an air thick with unseen fear, this golden wine was believed to plug lung gaps, armoring the throat against night breezes carrying plague. Science then didn't name high-proof alcohol as antiseptic, but lived wisdom taught a hot sip built a shield for the breath. At Domnina's eye level, a wave-carved olive dish waited patiently. Winter-cured olives, skins wrinkled dark, held warm fat to smooth the lamb's salt, enriching digestion for a late stomach. Unfussy, unshowy, olives anchored the meal like beams bracing a roof, unnoticed but vital, or the house of nourishment would tilt. Dr. Theophanes sat angled nearby, watching, sparing words. His small leather notebook brimmed with slanted Greek, logging salt ratios, smoking hours, storage temperatures, even honey doses for the barley. Not just a recipe draft, but a field scientist's scripture for an era-wielding cuisine as a micro-fortress. Time's wheel spun, but on those pages, Theophanes pinned each moment, like nailing planks to keep the corridor's floor firm. Outside, sea wind grazed the still pond, rippling silver under lamplight. Golden carp flicked fins below, scavenging afternoon crumbs, unwittingly curbing mosquitoes. Their slim splashes, sparse, wove with the oil lamp's pop and the spoon's faint clinks against the bowl, 3 sounds spaced like beats in a lullaby, simple enough for the mind to clutch, drifting toward quiet. As the barley bowl neared empty, Domnina rested the spoon on its rim, hands clasping, fingertips tracing lingering milk and honey warmth. She tilted her head, watching an amber honey streak slide down the bowl's curve, spiraling like a galaxy map hung in Byzantine studies. The syrup's slow crawl, akin to sand through an hourglass neck, reminded her each calm moment today cost refusals of rancid fish, meticulous tallies, and vows to keep tastes humble amid uncertainty. As resinous wine scented the table, Theophanes flicked his wrist, pouring 2 thimble-sized green-glazed cups. Domnina lifted hers, the rim brushing her lips, meeting not harsh alcohol but fresh wood undertones. The wine hit her tongue, racing down her throat, leaving a mild burn, like pulling a cotton blanket over shoulders in chilly night. Warm enough for eyes to flutter, not fierce to jolt nerves. It paused in her stomach, pulsing thrice, then spread a soft glow to her chest. The oil lamp dimmed another notch. The wine jug's shadow stretched across the table, its blurry edge melding with marble veins, a miniature eclipse. In that instant, all plague defenses, salt, smoke, silver, alcohol, slow eating, fused into one silent shield, cocooning the villa like a silkworm's thread around fragile silk. Beyond the stone walls, plague prowled, but faltered in a maze of smoke and briny gusts, slowed by a gleaming nutritional rampart. As the moon climbed, Domnina signaled servants to clear the bowls. They moved like mime artists, stirring air with robe hems. White-glazed bowls stacked soundlessly on a copper tray. The wine jug, wrapped in wax-soaked linen, vanished into a cupboard. Finally, a servant shook a rock-salt vial, scattering a loose circle around the table's base, a final sigil sealing the meal's rite. Domnina rose, fingers trailing the chair's carved back to the table's edge, confirming its dry cleanliness, then smoothing her wool scarf. She inhaled deeply, drawing piney wine, smoked meat, and pistachio traces into her lungs, a prayer for peace before her room. The complex aroma swaddled her chest, sparking soothing signals, nudging consciousness toward dream's haze. Leaving the corridor, the lamp's amber flicker lingered behind, pulsing like the villa's heart. From the tiled yard, a carp's final splash sank the pond into inky stealth. At the stone wall's edge, spent mastic left only dark resin stains on the porcelain dish. Yet resin, honeyed vinegar, and sea gusts wove a fragrant veil, draping the villa like a vast curtain. Across your screen, your eyelids grow heavy, your heart tapping slow, like the silver spoon resting by the empty barley bowl. You tug your blanket tight, shifting to a snug pose, as Domnina adjusted her scarf. In that cozy, dark barley, honey, olives, smoked meat, and wine morph into a sensory memory gliding through your mind, filling imagined nostrils, muting real-world noise. This perfectly portioned meal, rich enough to calm, simple enough to lull, locked the night's door. In the final second before dreams, you hear a Ceres rooster's faint throat clearing, prepping its crow for a distant dawn. It reminds you the vigil persists, but your part now is to weave soft dreams. Let your body match the villa's steady pulse, your breath align with ancient incense, and this quarantine feast become a second blanket, sealing lung gaps against nightmares. So, night flows, smooth as barley in the bowl, steady as the silver spoon by porcelain's edge, safe as lamb smoked 4 days, ever ready against pesky germs. By the rooster's true crow, incense may fade, but minds tasting this tranquil supper will hold wine's warmth within, enough to carry one through another plague day, unbroken. Dawn's second light seeped through Para's narrow corridor like slow-pouring honey, tracing honeystone veins and warming ceramic tiles still holding night's faint heat. Outside, silence sharpened the carp's gentle splashes in the pond, their ripples glinting under dew-soaked olive branches. Yesterday, eye-stinging mastic smoke and sweet barley supper wove a fragile shield around the group. Today, that shield needed invisible threads of budget, numbers binding material survival to mental calm. Domnina rose as pink tinged the sky, draping a thin wool scarf and heading to the study. The room faced the back garden, its arched window misted, cracked open to let sea breezes carry faint burnt pine resin through the slats. On the rosewood table, where last night's barley bowl sat, now lay a sealed letter, its Tyrian purple wax, sea snail dye costly as gold, reserved for palace kin, gleaming. The seal smudged under her touch, flashing one last violet spark before splitting like an overripe fig. Inside, crisp parchment bore terse Greek script. Justinian's overnight decree waived inheritance taxes for plague victims' kin, upheld port trade levies, and banned jewelry exports beyond city limits. No call to flee the capital, no nudge for aid, just a blunt note. Wealth stays locked, owners safe behind walls. Dry policy, but number-savvy eyes saw it. The emperor pinned the rich in place, halting the flow of people and germs hidden in costly robes to the countryside. Domnina slid her wooden-bound ledger to the table's center. Its first page held 4 columns: silk, wine, metal, treasury. Reed pen dipped in ink, slanted Greek letters chained like links. Tyrian silk, 30 bolts, sealed in pine chests, export price, TBD. Malvasia, pure, 6 amphorae, 2 resin sealed, 1 uncorked. Heirloom silver, 24 spoons, 2 double-handled cups, 1 shallow tray, polished, stored in salt-lined stone chest. Cash reserve, 30 gold numismata, 140 copper follis for servant wages and coarse salt. An early fly buzzed by the window, wings ticking against wood. Domnina half-closed the shutter, dulling the breeze. The fly vanished into the curtain's shadow. A small act, but it mirrored her ledger's purpose. Block the flight of what seems harmless, but could cost the villa dearly. Outside, servants struck a bamboo clapper in a new rhythm. 3 taps, spaced 4 heartbeats, signaling barley rations. The hollow sound echoed across the tiled yard, rippling off marble steps in 3 round waves. It reminded all. Breakfast comes, but feet stay within stone walls. More barley, less freedom, a raw trade for martial law's cold chain. Theophanes appeared at the doorway, carrying a green ink jar for urgent notes. He set it by Domnina, opened his medical log, and wrote one line. No new coughs last night. His tiny, slanted script held space for a sigh of relief between plague reports. A tax policy, dry as treasury talk, eased morning lungs. Domnina wrote on. 3-month contingency. Assume port closure. Her pen moved steady. Haste only smeared ink, as panic tripped people. She kept all silver, halted cloth orders, and shifted 10 nomismata to rock salt before prices spiked. In Byzantium, salt was white gold, preserving lamb, scouring blood, sanitizing wood. If ports shut, salt would outprice incense. In the back courtyard, 2 figures hauled laurel baskets from the storeroom, their white cotton robes showing fresh stitched patches. Domnina watched their deliberate steps. Servants knew haste sparked sweat. Sweat-soaked clothes drew fleas. The villa hummed like a soft melody. Each note, steps, claps, breaths, spread wide, paced to let tomorrow's honey-vinegar smoke rewrap every robe's seam. Noon sun cast olive arches onto the pond, their shadows pooling like spilled ink. Golden carp snapped barley crumbs at the edge. They, too, joined the reserve nutrition column. Domnina's reflection on the water stretched thin, a mere slash. She mused silently. Tax exemptions made the rich static pillars, unwittingly slowing contagion's spread. Selfish, yet selfishness bore a humane edge, like a mismatched bandage staunching a wound. By midday, she washed her hands with pink sand, dried them on coarse linen, and opened a new ledger page. The food reserve percentage column, bolded in red, demanded a 10% hike if afternoon news confirmed port market closure. Calculations felt drier than sand, but as her pen scratched, Domnina's pulse steadied, outpacing distant Constantinople's tolling bells. Mastering numbers was like steering a skiff through dawn fog. No shore in sight, but a firm hand on the oar. Sunlight slanted into the room, honeystone dust drifting like pale butterflies, settling on book spines and her robe's shoulder. Theophanes closed his log, tucked his reed pen, glanced at the budget, and nodded faintly. A few green-inked lines sealed the day's defenses. He left, his cloth sandals whispering through sunlit dust, like a musician slipping from an orchestra, leaving the tune's echo. Afternoon deepened, honeystone walls casting long shadows, dyeing the ceramic yard deep purple. Sea winds shifted, carrying less salt, more funeral horns from the city. Their notes shattered at the courtyard's edge, reaching the table but failing to topple numbers fixed in hard green ink. The emergency budget, in that moment, became the villa's anchor. Like a plain mask veiling half a modern face, it wasn't poetic, but it blocked germs and dread. Oil lamps flared at dusk, flames pulsing short breaths, tracing faint arcs on the wooden ceiling. On the table, the ledger shut, pinned under a sandstone weight. Vinegar honey smoke rose again from the fumigation shed, laurel leaves catching fire, releasing a sharp, sweet scent. It coiled through corridors, seeped under doors, glazing the ledger's words with invisible varnish. As darkness tightened, Domnina stood, stroking the reed pen's spine before stowing it in a bamboo case. She lifted a golden wax jar, placed it in a wall's hidden nook, and locked it with a crisp bolt. Key in wax, wax in wall, wall under incense's shield. 3 defenses meshed like water clock gears. Somewhere out there, plague probed for gaps. But tonight, Para's villa lay swaddled in smoke and numbers. In the deep night, Domnina climbed the stairs, wood sighing under her heels. The Ceres rooster clucked softly in its coop, sensing the sea breeze's chill. She opened a high window, letting air graze the curtain before closing it. Pine resin's faint whiff, laced with misty salt, capped a tiring but whole day. A day when dry policy patched the final breach in their defenses. The bedside lamp's flame shrank, its sway capturing calm in her eyes' depths. Domnina lay on cool linen, her breath falling into a 4-part rhythm. Inhale, hold, exhale, rest. Sinking with a servant's hand fan dousing the smoke pot. Behind her closing lids, green numbers sparkled like salt grains in dawn's light, and she knew. Sometimes, the dullest lines, unshowy, were the fingernails gripping a narrow ledge, keeping the house from the abyss. Tomorrow, smoke would rise, barley would simmer, and the ledger would open anew. But tonight, as carp stilled and roosters dreamed, numbers lay bound in Tyrian steel. Dread's pause was backed by nameless tax waivers. Sleep flowed slow, safe, like a shallow river finding its path under moonlight. The third afternoon draped Para's villa with a languid grace, like an aging bard coaxing final low notes from a lyre, letting the melody sink into a honey-hued sky rather than cut off. Sea winds shifted, carrying bronze church bells from the city, each long chime dissolving into air thick with half-burnt pine resin. In that transition, the villa donned its dusk cloak. Oil lamps lit early, laurel embers cooled in the fumigation oven, and a new ritual took the stage, a performance of shimmering illusions. Today, Domnina ordered the front garden meticulously tended. The lawn by the ceramic-tiled path was clipped into a 4-petaled rose. Marble steps were scrubbed with rose water and vinegar, each sun ray bouncing soft, like clouds mirrored in a clear sky. The reason was economic, not aesthetic. This afternoon, 2 neighboring families would pause at the wooden fence to check on health, really to spy whose talisman shone brighter. In plague times, relics weren't rare. Rare was staging them to spark envy without igniting spite. Domnina unlocked a small storeroom under the stairs, its dark air musty with smoked cedar. In a linen-lined oak chest, the family's relic rested. A bone, pinky-sized, dark golden brown, polished and coated in amber resin mixed with camphor, wrapped in 4 gossamer gold leaves. Held to a torch, each leaf fractured into tiny beams, rippling like a miniature aurora. Dr. Theophanes had twice urged tossing this dust catcher, but Domnina insisted. Belief is medicine, if diluted right. She carried the oak box to the veranda, setting it on the marble table, aligning its legs within the oil lamp's glow. The lamp, copper with wax-filled glass, cast silk soft light, but hitting the gold leaves, it flared radiant. Domnina nodded, stepping back, picturing an Instagram frame. The lamp as filter, gold as vibrance boost. Caption: Finger that felled a dragon, now guards against plague. Ancient PR mirrored modern ads, just missing a looping soundtrack. By the wooden fence, servants placed 2 baskets of dark olives, a few fist-sized mineral salt blocks, and a wave-patterned wool cloth. Not pure show, these props distracted. While guests eyed olives, lamplight hit the gold, conjuring a glowing relic effect. Domnina had tested it at night. A direct torch made the bone gleam so fiercely a young servant's knees shook. The myth of a plague-repelling radiant relic likely sprouted from such a glint, a stray spark catching thin gold. At the hour of the boar, the sky bled orange-purple like Tyrian silk wrung dry. 2 neighbor families, Climatius and Acritos, halted mule carts at the gate, staying outside the fence, heeding court-mandated distance to curb coughs, curb fears. Their handheld torches lit the oak box, gold leaves sparking a sharp gleam. A young woman gasped softly behind her hand, the effect rippling to those behind. No theatrical greeting needed. Domnina cracked the veranda window, delivering the show's sole line. This finger once drew a dragon's blade. Her voice carried, blending with torch crackles, cloaking the scene in mystique. Truth was, the bone came from a Ceres rooster, the 3rd slaughtered, dyed thrice in amber, soaked in pine oil, sun-dried 2 days. From wing to gold, it was crafted for PR, selling hope. Like a glow filter on a selfie, it used dazzle to trick eyes, stirring imaginations starved for cures. Domnina knew this, but also a deeper truth. Sometimes, people pressed on only by what they believed they saw, not what was real. Post radiant relic glow, guests swapped herb pouches, bought half an olive basket at double price, and left slowly, glancing back at the oak box. As they vanished past the cypress row, Domnina shut the door. A maid wiped the marble table with apple vinegar-soaked linen, erasing gold flecks and wood dust. The box returned to the storeroom, the act closed. Yet the glow's echo clung to the wall, like phosphor trails on a fading CRT screen. Night fell. Theophanes perched on the veranda steps, doodling swirls in stone dust. Each loop a symbol of the sealed ground, the myth expanded. He disliked flash, but conceded. A glint could make outsiders wonder, is that villa blessed? Wonder bred caution. Caution cut contact, slowing plague. It mimicked urban deference to upscale storefronts. Passers-by kept respectful distance, thinning crowds unwittingly. In Domnina's heart, the gold's halo wasn't victory, just a tool for silence. Silence bought the villa time, and time was pure gold when plague counted days. She knew the chicken bone couldn't repel germs, but each spark in human eyes burned emotional fuel, forging mental antibodies against panic. In a pre-vaccine era, psychological vaccines earned their stripes. In her incense-scented bedroom, Domnina stowed the oak box under a bookshelf, draped in linen, dimming the stage. The oil lamp's flicker dulled the amber-coated gold to mute metal. Beyond the window, sea winds rustled olive branches, their whisper lulling her breath. Long, deep, slow. The glitz dissolved into fine dust, not meaningless. It shielded against terror's gusts until the next vinegar laurel smoke could envelop. Theophanes made final rounds, lone lamp in hand, casting a blade-long shadow on the wall. He eyed the faint glow under the storeroom door, where the relic rested, then smiled thinly. Psychological surgery succeeded. The shimmering dose hit Hope's vein. The lamp swayed. The blade shadow shrank. Proof life needed both science and illusion to fight plague, each half the human load. Night crested the villa's gable, the crescent moon dipping below cypresses, leaving the ceramic yard graphite gray. Rooster clucks faded in early dreams, carp stilled, laurel ash cooled white as salt, and the gold-leafed chicken bone, silent under the stairs, stood mythic sentinel. In plague season, not all could afford raw truth. Sometimes people needed glitter, a few radiant flecks to keep nerves from snapping. If you, distant listener, half close your eyes, picture a golden glint skimming your lashes. Don't open wide, keep it hazy, like a warm-toned lens. In darkness, that spark will drift, leaving just enough dream stuff to cradle sleep. Come dawn, when carp greet sun and Theophanes logs, no new coughs, you'll see. Tonight, an amber-dyed chicken bone, torch lit on gold, stretched the ledger's calm by the length of one slow breath. Dusk of the fourth day faded, nudging the sun below the Marmara Sea's edge like a forgotten coin on a table's rim, leaving a twilight streak, pale as glaze-worn porcelain. In that coal-tinged purple, Pera's villa began its silent shift between opposing ecosystems. Beyond its walls, a panicked world dug mass graves. Within, grapevines swayed in night breezes, and carp circled the pond's rim leisurely. Like a coin's two faces, both realities coexisted, divided by a honeystone wall 3 hands thick. From the highest gatehouse, Stephanos, newly on watch, squared his shoulders, peering through a loophole. Distant pyre's flames cast deep orange streaks skyward, silhouetting gravediggers, tiny as ants swarming spilled honey. The air mixed grimly, damp earth churned, lime powder strewn for disinfection, and the rancid tang of wet shrouds heavy with bile, all blending into a throat-clawing reek. Every 10 minutes, Stephanos cleared his throat with a rasping keck to shake the dread. Yet he knew that grating sound was the villa's sharpest filter. At noon, Domnina had ordered a sealed oak board fixed to the gate. 3 coughs, turn your horse back. Bold red Greek letters, unadorned. Below, Stephanos added a diagonal slash, thickening the 3, believing hurried minds dropped details without a stark mark. A medieval QR checkpoint, no scanner, just keen ears. 1 cough earned a chance to explain. 2 tensed the guard's face. 3, and the gate slammed, horse-wheeled, rider shooed toward the ditch along the wall. Rumors spread like a tweet. 4th cough, the guard tosses you over. Barbaric? Perhaps. But as plague gnawed the capital's edge, Its efficiency matched the night sea's biting chill. Inside the walls, on the sloping vineyard, young green grapes, kissed by dusk, joined a soft rustling lullaby. Evening gusts slipped through leaves, tickling fine grass, whispering a single-note melody Domnina favored for end-of-day accounting. Under the highest veranda, she spun a wooden abacus, black and white beads sliding through sums. 2 fallas spent on lime, 4 for laborers reinforcing the fence, but a water cask saved. Stephanos cleverly rerouted ditch flow to rinse digging tools outside, sparing the villa's well. Each bead glided smoothly, like air bubbled through malvasia laced with fresh pine. As the final bead settled, she exhaled, grateful. The inner walls held firm. Outside, the world darkened under frantic shovels. Mass graves deepened, widened, racing yesterday's toll. Someone counted silently, noting the northern city's empty plots as blank notes in plague's score. Each new pit, limed and dust-capped to seal leaks. Stephanos saw the uneven earth as Yersenia's fingerprint, clinging to shovels, boots. To him, the 3-cough rule wasn't a scare tactic, but a bacterial alarm. 3 coughs signaled lungs. A 4th meant the microbe had breached the throat's gate. Tossing to the ditch, where currents surged, was cruel, but water swept invaders far from vines and granary. By the ceramic path, Theophanes rinsed hands in a copper basin of pink vinegar and coarse salt. He tilted his face, catching a stray dry cough from the gate, a sound slicing night. Hands still damp, he tied his robe, strode to the high veranda, and whispered to Domnina, "1." She nodded, glancing to the forecourt. Stephanos raised a finger. Their eyes met through vine shadows, a silent pact. First cough. Wait. In the garden, servants paused their clattering herb baskets, standing rigid, breaths shallow. The scene froze, a slow-motion reel, only earthworms stirring under prickly pear beds. Air tightened, awaiting the second cough. From the gate, a horse snorted, then a human cuck. The second cough. Stephanos raised 2 fingers. Theophanes halted mid-step, dry palms now slick, but his lips stayed sealed, like laurel ash holding latent oil. The villa held its breath, inner walls waiting for the outer to declare a victor. Would the stranger stifle the cough, or would plague breach the gate? The moment stretched, a silkworm thread near snapping, then broke. A sharp hack. The third cough. The iron lock slammed shut. Stephanos didn't shout. He slid a second board into the gate's slot. Depart. The lock's metal bite rang dry, ending the silent drama. In the yard, servants resumed tasks. Theophanes strode to the kitchen. Domnina nudged the abacus, sliding a black bead right. Lime cost +1, risk 0. Life within the walls rolled on. Outside, the coffer vanished into cold gusts. By night, rumors of ditch tossing spread. No one saw a 4th coffer flung, but communal minds spun drama. Like a viral tweet, tales morphed. Some said Stephanos speared coffers. Others swore he tied them to an old mule's tail, whip-cracked. In truth, he only tapped his spear's shaft on wood, signaling retreat, but gossip swelled like bread yeast, bloated by fearful breaths. By morning, gate visitors halved, nose sniffers near vanished. In the vineyard, tender leaves quivered, pliant branches sipping from self-watering ceramic pots. Carp hugged the pond's edge, nosing algae, tails fanning ripples like stitches on a robe's chest. The villa's soundscape clashed with the outer worlds. There, shovels clanged. Here, vines sang. There, hooves sparked dust. Here, garden pebbles gleamed. Parallel realms, split by the three-cough law, brutal but effective, cold as night wind through leaves. At late dusk, closing her ledger, Domnina wondered if she'd turned the villa into a savage fortress. Then she recalled the 3-month nutrition column, the loaf sufficient for the last meal, Theophanie's palm never crossing fever's threshold. Sometimes, to keep vines humming, you built walls against coughs. A few stones tossed at Morality's pond rippled, but the moon still shone, so long as waves spared the young grapes. This night, vinegar honey smoke curled again, Laurel's charred tang just strong enough to mute distant pyre crackles. Stephanos handed the watch to a younger guard, passing the wooden sign, whispering, "Count 3." The youth nodded, eyes piercing the fire-flecked misty dark. Inside, Domnina doused the veranda lamp, letting cold moonlight stroke the vines, silvering the lookout tower. As her eyes closed, carp splashes and leaf whispers wove a lullaby, threading in the distant cough blocked at the gate. Beyond the walls, earth still churned, shovels clashed, but within, peace held, a night's calm in plague's race, a small victory. Dawn of the 5th day poured over Para's villa with a gray-silver light, moldy with fog, its damp earth scent cloaking the veranda in a subtle, needle-prick chill. That lingering morning birthed a new need for those sheltered within the honeystone walls: private medical care, delicate as lace collars, but pricier than a Tyrian purple gown. Dr. Theophanes, used to gauging pulses with his forefinger, not pricing by conscience, began crafting a vaccine for the elite, his movements those of a monk blending incense, meticulously pinching pine resin, then trimming rosemary with care. In the apothecary shed by the pond, he lowered the oil lamp's wick, bathing the room in soft amber glow, like warmed leather. On a stone table, he spread a brown linen cloth, ironed so smooth it mirrored the viscous pine resin's grain. Harvested from Aleppo pine cuts, the resin was caught in porcelain bowls overnight, letting camphor foam settle, then mixed with dried, crushed rosemary, ground between ceramic slabs. The method sounded crude, but Theophanes measured grams with a craftsman's eye. Too little, and the resin wouldn't set. Too much, it stained skin green, alarming clients. When the blend thickened to fresh honey's heft, he added drops of young olive oil, thinning stickiness and lending a glossy sheen, a trick to make the jar gleam healing. Each batch filled small glass vials, sealed with golden beeswax, labeled with papyrus cords dusted in gold flecks. Vials stood 3 knuckles high, costing half a suburban mason's home. Domnina, perched by a cracked open door, calculated silently. Selling these to 3 nearby estates would fund salt and Sinai cinnamon for 4 weeks of fumigation. profit was clear, though all knew. The salve didn't repel Yersinia bacteria, only draped skin in soothing scent, tricking nerves with pine resin's cool kiss and cedar's smoldering afterglow. In a fear-bitten world, calm's illusion rivaled silver's worth. With the last vial done, Theophanes set them on a copper tray, draped in damp linen to hold warmth, and paced the marble corridor, where dawn's well-water mist swirled ankle-high. Every 10 steps, he clutched the tray to his chest, as if the fragile comfort might shatter into futility. His steps echoed a steady talk, 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 piercing the villa's hush, signaling servants. The vaccine had gained value. Those seeking safety needed deep purses. A spiral staircase led to the reception room, where Domnina waited at a square stone table, ledger open, medical budget column awaiting green ink. Theophanes spoke no words. Panic-proofing meant low volume, only slid the tray to the table's edge, letting lamplight spark the glass. Pine resin glowed gold. Rosemary flecks swirled like spirulina, the liquid a bottled aurora. Domnina shifted her chair, inhaled the sharp pine whiff, and penned, "Resin salve X6, 15 follis vial." With one stroke, the villa's mental safety fund thickened by 6 units. Para's elite didn't wait for invites. Word spread like mastic smoke on a gust. Theophanes had mixed a vaccine, dawdle, and you'd sniff stale air. Before dusk, 2 couriers tethered horses at the gate, trading fresh seafood for 2 vials. By twilight, the talisman of faith stirred the southern hill district, whispers claiming, "Rub on wrists to block germs via veins," a protective jewel doubling as woody perfume. One house sought a spare vial, but Domnina deftly deflected. Limited stock. Essence fades far from the mixing hearth. Really to hike tomorrow's price. Night fell. Theophanes dizzy from lamp fumes, yet his eyes glinted slyly. "We sell scent costlier than coins, cheaper than fear." Domnina nodded. No analysis needed. Science couldn't yet halt plague, so borrowing placebo to soothe nerves was worth it. In history's calamities, placebos braced wounded spirits. Native Americans wore cedar charms. World War I soldiers clutched Jerusalem scraps. Now, Byzantine nobles smeared resin on temples, believing lungs sealed. At the second watch, the kitchen coals died. The villa bathed in bedside lamps' gold. Servants rubbed resin on palms, inhaling deeply, saying, "Wood scent like dawn forests." A quip with smiling eyes relaxed. Simple biology. Believing the body protected hushed the sympathetic nervous system, lowered cortisol, steadied heartbeats to a cha-cha drum. Theophanes noted silently, recalling an Alexandrian maxim. Body fights germs, mind fights phantoms. Poetic, but dual blades. Salve struck fear first, then germs. Domnina paused mid-hand wash, dabbing resin inside her wrist. The cool blend melted into veins, warming skin with pine's echo of the first night's fumigation. Her pulse likely wasn't immune, but the scent unyoked the morning's burdens. Nearby, the copper lamp's flame shrank to a bean, a crescent moon peeking through the window, silver replacing amber's warmth. Healer and mistress eyed the half-empty resin jar, exhaling as one. Past midnight, carp stilled, outer walls dulled the wind. Gravediggers likely toiled beyond the city, but inside, gold-dusted glass vials rested on shelves, glinting like sleeping cats' eyes under dim lamps. Fragile peace, yet whole. Winds turned, carrying no early coughs. Gatekeeper Stephanos, on late shift, rubbed salve on his scarf, pine masking fresh-dug earth's reek. Useless? He wondered for half a second, then recalled Theophanes. If you believe, nerves ease, lungs tighten. So he closed his eyes, trusting. In her high bedroom, Domnina drew the curtain. Resin's warmth traced her neck like a caress, rosemary conjuring a calm Mediterranean garden, untouched by plague across a windswept sea. Her eyes drooped, the scene blurring like a slow-motion film's start. In the corner, Theophanes doused the oven, dimmed the lamp, muttering, "No more analysis. Let placebo work. Let minds loosen, sleep open." So, you, listener beyond the screen, don't dissect pine resin and rosemary's recipe. Breathe. Imagine warm wood scent teasing your nose. Trust it labels your lungs safe. Feel your heart slow as your brain cuts alarm cords. When belief beds down, eyelids sag, knees soften, jaw releases the day's sharp sums. Nod gently. Let the mental vaccine coat your mind and drift. Sleep. Dawn of the 6th week tapped Para's villa with damp, cold fingers. Sea fog, rich with salt and kelp, swept through the olive grove, clinging to honeystone walls, leaving tiny water beads like shattered glass on their porous face. No birds sang, no roosters crowed. Only the wind's faint comb rustled ash-purple lavender blooms. Silence sharpened each sound, the oil lamp's wick in the side room crackling as its last drop flared. In that stillness, Domnina keenly felt the arrival of red wax day, when Constantinople sent the estates its latest census of life and death, steady as calamity's slow heartbeat. As fog veiled the low veranda, the courier arrived. No drums, no entourage, just him, a gaunt horse, and a copper tube longer than his forearm. He halted at the oak gate, not knocking. Instead, he tugged the reins, letting the horse paw the gravel path, its crunch waking the guard. Stephanos, still on night watch, eased the gate a crack, extending a hand for the tube. No words, no wasted moves. In their makeshift plague rules, speech and closeness under an arm's length were risks. The tube passed. The courier took a barley sack hooked on a gate peg, turned, and urged his horse into the gray mist, as if shedding a cracking stone. Stephanos didn't rush the tube to his mistress. He set it in an oval stone trough by the well, lifting a wooden bucket of warm water to submerge tube and fears. As water touched metal, steam carried a faint scorched beeswax and copper tang. Domnina appeared, her dark wool scarf loosely draped, hair high-bunned and mist-damp. She bent over the basin, pouring 3 lavender oil drops from a vial. Purple oil swirled, blooming iridescent veins. No mere flourish. For Domnina, The scent was a sterilizing cloak for the mind. Lavender's veil over the tube calmed nerves quaking at unseen germs on the scroll. 5 deep breaths cooled the water. She lifted the tube, placed it on a copper tray, and carried it to the study, a narrow half-basement room facing the carp pond. Morning light slanted through a high-arched window, cutting a dust-flecked beam, painting the long marble table with an ivory sword's glow. She pried the seal, thick red beeswax crumbling like clotted honey. Beeswax, lavender, and aged copper mingled, thickening the study's air, soothing yet heavy. The goatskin scroll slid free. Long, pliant, its edges darkened by tanning, it bore tight, slanted brown script like dried mud. Domnina smoothed creases, pinning one end under an iron gall ink pot, the other under a snuffed candle stub. Names emerged. Maximos, silversmith's son. Eudokia, merchant's daughter. Ambrosios, cart driver, each trailed by a cross. The district column mixed Pili, Blackernai, Neorian. On it went, names packed dense, the scroll a reaper's receipt, long as a Black Friday slip some fool printed for sport. Domnina dipped a reed pen in green ink, drafting a side ledger. Left column copied districts, right marked prior census dates. Center held a slim column for new cases. Theophanes stood silently behind, passing her a jar of green powder to dot households hit repeatedly. The only sound was the pen's steady scratch on parchment, like a low fire's hum. Each mark done, Domnina dipped the pen in lavender water, tilting it. A fragrant drop fell to the scroll's edge, spreading a pale halo. She knew the oil didn't kill Yersinia, but its scent shielded eyes and heart, dulling death's blade. The ledger thickened with colored slashes as the scroll's names dwindled. Compared to 7 days prior, deaths rose by over 200, but the surge shifted from Neorion's port to Blackernay, near Theodosian's north gate. Domnina noted, closed the book. One last glance at the tally, she dripped a final lavender drop on the ink, like an archangel's consoling wax seal. The ripe scent spread, blending with dawn's cool air, turning the death-scented study into a faint herbal spa. Finished, Domnina opened a side door to a small storeroom. Inside, a wall nook held 5 prior scrolls, rolled, hemp-tied, sealed in golden beeswax. She placed the new one atop, tilting it to keep oil from smudging others, then shut the wooden lid. The storeroom returned to dark and silence, Lavender's pulse fading like a long breath. In the corridor, Domnina stretched. The barley sack swapped for the courier's scroll would yield 1 more porridge meal for servants, 3 sweet barley bowls for weekend supper. She adjusted her scarf, climbing the honey-stone slope to the kitchen, lavender trailing like thin smoke. Beyond the walls, digging persisted, but within, life hummed. Laurel ovens smoldered, carp circled, vines sprouted green tendrils. Stephanos polished his spear at the gate. Theophanes stirred salve. Domnina pinned death's toll with a fragrant drop. Night would come, and next week's scroll would stretch longer, like an endless clearance sales receipt. But now, that dizzying moment was sealed in lavender's scent, numbers logged, fear named and shelved. The task, dry as sand tallies, eye-straining, brimmed with humanity. It reminded that amid infection's storm, people still folded pain, sprinkled oil, and stored it away, keeping the air clean enough to breathe and sleep. If you listen from an age of 70% alcohol, triple-layer masks, and screens dense with outbreak graphs, picture opening a lavender vial, dripping one drop on your wrist, inhaling deep. The scent won't kill viruses, but it soothes the line between fear and calm, like Domnina's drops on each scroll. Then, let it slow your breath, ease your lids shut, until the courier's phantom steps fade in dreams, and that long list of names blurs into dusk's thin fog, yielding to a night's peace, at least within the inner walls. Night enfolded Para's villa like indigo velvet dusted with silver. The courtyard glimmered only where thin moonlight grazed cracked roof tiles. The kitchen hearth's coals died, laurel smoke fading to a faint warm wood scent, its singed bread tang edging out the lavender's fleeting bloom. In that quiet hour, Domnina sat alone in the counting room, a single beeswax candle flickering before her, its light dancing across 4 slanted columns of numbers. The flame wavered, casting the reed pen's shadow on the wall, long as a clock's hand pointing to eternity. Yet her mental abacus churned, numbers relentless even as the moon breathed slow. Since the plague flared, beeswax candle prices crept up like a skiff catching spring's first breeze. By week 3, the sales caught, doubling, then tripling. Last week, after rumors of a suburban waxworks fire, prices surged 5-fold. With one pen stroke, the humble golden candle, once outranked by wine and linen, leapt to luxury. It felt so 21st century, masks pricier than French perfume. Domnina inhaled, exhaled slowly, recalling her arithmetic tutor. In fear, what lights eyes burns wallets. The night prices hit quadruple. She penned a letter, lavender sealed, to Bithynia, northeast hills where wild bees built combs in thyme meadows. The recipient wasn't a formal merchant, but Isaurian muleteers, night haulers, daytime firewood peddlers, nighttime wax smugglers, dodging tax posts. Plague didn't faze them. Clinking fallas in leather pouches outshone germ fears. Domnina's note was brief. 5 casks first, deliver at moon's wane, double sea route price. A Tyrian stamp on the edge signaled, this client's goods, no questions. Thus, the dark market's first gear turned. 4 nights later, as Para slept under a milky gray sky, the first shipment slunk through the back gate like squirrels. 3 masked muleteers, horses' hooves muffled with rags, unloaded rough beeswax blocks from dry wood crates, dull gold, edges warped by farmers' knives, smelling of honey and forest earth. Domnina touched a block, its surface smooth as soapstone, and paid swiftly. 20 numismata down, enough to fuel Isaurian dreams of a full winter. The men tied coins to chest straps, melting into the dark. The wax rolled to the wine cellar's cool vault, safe from melting. Morning broke, blackernigh buzzing. Beeswax candles extinct. Neo-Ryan market prices jumped 2 notches, but Domnina locked the storeroom. She shorted the market, future style. No wax sold while prices climbed. She strolled the vineyard, plucked grapes, smiling at laments of, "Tonight's oil lamps sting my eyes." The thicker the regret, the hotter the price. 3 days later, when Hagia Sophia's lamp steward begged a holy wax loan, Domnina carved a sliver, selling at 7 times base. Cash flowed like a spring stream through rock, clear, cold, ceaseless. Domnina's ledger sprouted 2 new rows in the wax profit column, plus 78 follis, bold beside laurel costs and gate repairs. She didn't shore up food. Barley stocks held. Instead, she wrapped silver in cloth, sent a servant on horseback past the fence to the south estate, ransoming a stranded Syrian physician. Massams, lean, eyes sharp with wit, carrying a leather satchel of scalpels, myrrh powders, silver suture needles, and an Alexandrian Medical Guild badge. In 542, healers were rarer than Tyrian silk. Silk went unworn in plague, but a battle-tested doctor was rarer still. Domnina paid Massams 25 follis up front, 15 more promised post-plague. Para buzzed. 2 physicians for 40 souls, a ratio glitzier than a minor court. Theophanes, initially wary, warmed after Greek-Latin banter revealed Massams's memorized Galen and Antioch malaria cases. By lamplight, newly refined wax candles, they split lung, skin, and pulse patrols, crafting an elite in-house healthcare plan. Word of Para's wax hoard and new doctor spread like wind through dry wheat. Neighboring estates peered over fences, comparing. Their rapeseed oil lamps stung eyes with acrid smoke. Para's golden candles burned gentle, honey-scented. They tisked, then sent discreet price inquiries. At dusk, with sea breezes blowing cityward, Domnina opened the storeroom, selling 1/10 of a wax block at 8 times cost, with a catch. Bring a sealed lavender oil clay jar for sterilization, or try tomorrow. Plague-era midnight supermarket vibes. Miss a beat, lose your slot. 3 speculative cycles spun over 7 nights. Domnina's nomismata stash swelled. Food stores stayed ample and, crucially, no new coughs logged for 3 days. That 0, calm as a modern 0 cases ticker, buoyed spirits. Servants' arms steadied hauling water. Domnina's heart ceased jumping at fire grate scrapes. Candles melted, coins poured. The new doctor chanted Arabic prayers in a low hum. Theophanes listened, nodded, as they shared premium pine resin salve Para could now afford. Dry stuff? Those bland numbers, candle price x5, profit plus 78, doctor fee plus 25, quietly redrew plague's survival map. Gentle candles deepened sleep, lowered cortisol. 2 doctors caught lymph nodes early, sealed rooms fast. Cash bought lime, laurel, thicker fumigation smoke. Each silver unit spent shaved infection odds, stacking into longer life than oil lamp dwellers flickering out. On the week's final night, Domnina set a pure beeswax candle, unblended, on a copper stand by the window. Its steady golden flame lit peace over the pond. Carp flashed fins in the glow, signing liquid autographs. She exhaled, honeyed warmth filling her throat, and closed the ledger. Over half the hoarded wax had bought a doctor. Remaining profits lay in a stone floor nook draped in lavender-scented linen. Did she regret selling light to fear? Perhaps. But in plague, light itself was the cheapest, costliest medicine. Costly, for few hoarded it. Cheap for one, flame banished a room's dark. You, distant listener, likely saw mask or cough syrup prices soar. Maybe scoffed, maybe mocked. But tonight, notice your bedside lamp granting what Domnina bought with numismata mounds. Kind light, clean air, a sense the sky hasn't fallen. Let its gold blur, weigh your lids. Coins, wax, or mask stocks all chase one task: buying calm breaths, full sleeps. Domnina's pond-side candle, half melted, still lights this tale's last words, lulling nerves to dream's edge, where Bithynia's bees hum faintly. Vzz, vzz, like your fan's steady whir. Sleep, profits reaped, doctor secured, candle burning. The rest waits for dawn. As the 6th week's moon waned, tracing a silver thread across the sky's edge, Para's villa embraced a silent experiment that outsiders might scoff at as dull as an architect's blueprint. 2 vacuum corridors, an outer ring hugging the kitchen, an inner guarding the bedrooms, quietly tightened the final quarantine seal. No garish orange 1-meter lines, no flashing LED warnings. Stone, mortar, and breezes sufficed, like a solo melody needing only one true beat. No orchestra to stun. The villa's ground floor followed an inverted P layout: kitchen and pantry on the east wing, reception hall and central staircase, bedrooms and study under the west vault. An unnamed engineer 3 generations back, likely chasing summer comfort, unwittingly sketched a vacuum marvel: an open-roofed stone courtyard wedged between kitchen and hall, and a wind-swept corridor barring the sealed rooms. Tonight, Theophanes carved an apple's peel with soft words. If kitchen smoke carries plague, it hits the courtyard's gravel cage, choking before reaching sleeping lungs. Dry? Picture smoke as spam, the dual corridors as a filter, trapping rogue emails before your inbox. A silicon Byzantine tech trick. After barley porridge supper, Domnina draped her wool scarf, stepping into the central courtyard as the moon slipped past the wall. The honey stone underfoot held afternoon kitchen warmth, its porous pox like a synthetic lung. Above, the open sky funneled cold gusts. They mixed with the stone's heat, birthing visible currents. Wispy fog strands rose in twisting columns, dancing like a lazy ballerina's silk. Garlic-seared kitchen smoke reaching here joined that waltz, thinning, fracturing, suffocating in the open. A death not tragic, but deeply architectural. By the kitchen, Massams, the new physician, buried charcoal ash in a clay pot to smolder mosquitoes. Instead of burning incense inside and flooding the dining hall, he opened the oven, bolted the door, letting smoke hit the courtyard vacuum. Ash, roasted garlic, and cedar wove a scent, meeting the downdraft, then flung skyward like nameless ink splashes. Domnina stood still, eyes tracing the mushroom-shaped plume fading. A scene seemingly pointless yet hypnotic. Its spiraling release mimicked an hourglass running backward, sand rising, counting down brain's tension until the chest emptied. When the smoke cleared, she moved to the second corridor, the human filter. This brown ceramic tiled path ran south along the bedroom wing, roofless but sheltered by a high eaves blocking slanted rain. Each step rang tock, tock. First the footfall, then its echo off the vaulted eaves, conjuring a ghostly companion. That echo was a crude sensor. A cough or sniff bounced off walls, hitting the guard's ears like a lung bell. Today's lingo might call it an echo test, brick-and-mortar AI. No cough data, no entry. Nightly, Stephanos patrolled, counting his sandal taps. A double echo chain meant clear. A third sound off rhythm, a cough, halted him. Coughers triggered locked bedroom doors, swift exile to an emergency quarantine shed. Domnina glided through, pausing by a window where bedroom lamplight spilled gold. Inside, Theophanes pressed an ear to a clay tube on a wooden dummy patient, testing if smoke died in the courtyard. Doors shut, room warmth stayed put. The dual-layer design worked. Kitchen heat didn't seep to rest areas, avoiding pressure shifts, stabilizing sleep. Domnina's smile soured, bricks blocking smoke, steps screening coughs, precursors to future negative pressure rooms. 542's folk just called it letting wind suck. Night winds sharpened, colder. She tugged her scarf tight, catching the pond's murmur. Golden carp dozed lightly, backs glinting under moonlight. Pond water fed a shallow ditch threading both courtyards. As wind drew smoke, pressure pulled water, rippling the pond like a stirred vat. A dual flow system. Wind stole smoke, water claimed dust, drifting to a back garden creek where algae swallowed grime. Who says stone and mortar lack poetry? They sang an epic of water, fire, and air, silencing plague quietly. Massams sealed the oven, stepping to the kitchen threshold. Wordless, his glance told Domnina, "Smoke's fine." She nodded, the scarf's rustle against skin a soft signal. They didn't linger. Silence was the final sound filter. Fewer breaths, fewer droplets. Domnina turned, scarf hem lifted by breeze, her steps clinking double on brown tiles. Hear that dual echo, listener. Are your eyelids heavy? That's the trick. The brain tracks repeating taps, tires of comparing, dims, focus, opening sleep's gate like smoke seeping a room. Back in the hall, she blew out the wall candle. Despite soaring wax prices, corridor light needed just a minute's flame. The candle died, its honeyed char swept by corridor gusts to the courtyard. The dual vacuums sealed tight. In bedrooms, servants spread linen sheets, shut doors, their breaths filtered by the tiled path before leaving. They didn't know 2-meter rules, only take the new corridor. And that sufficed. Night deepened, moon retreated, the empty courtyard swallowed the last kitchen smoke. Silence stretched like a flute's bore, playing a symphony lulling the household. Tiles rang twice, winds shifted twice, carp circled twice, all paired like left-right breaths. Subtle? Perhaps overthought. But that unflashy precision, sans slogans, kept Theophanes 0 coughs, ledger steady all week. So you, easing under your 21st century roof, hear Domnina's imagined steps echo twice on brown tiles. Talk, talk, then talk, talk. Repetitive, soothing, steady. The dual rhythm, with wind sifting smoke, mirrors Para's calm. Exhale fears into the vacuum courtyard between your lungs. Let plague's dread suffocate there before touching dreams. If you wake breathing deep, no cough, thank the dull architecture, double walls, mundane air gaps, that keeps life uncracked as those paired echoes now coax you to sleep's gentle shore. The late June moon crested the cypress tops, spilling a thin silver veil over Para's villa, just as the vacuum courtyard between kitchen and west veranda swallowed the last kitchen smoke. Moonlight glazed the honeystone with a misty shimmer, each tiny pore a fleeting star. No roosters crowed, no dawn stirred. Only the wind's soft sweep through grapevines and the steady drip of a gutter's spout wove a fine-grained hum, like sifted cornmeal, priming the stage for a private Byzantine elite ritual. Official broadcasts, the sonic salve for panic. As the water clock in the corridor dripped into the first watch, Deacon Gregorios, hired from the city, tall, broad-shouldered, his baritone thick with Smyrna's honeyed grit, stepped silently onto the west veranda. At the breeze's sweetest spot, where night air curled from the pond, through the vacuum courtyard, to the bedroom wing, he set a tall beeswax candle on the brown-tiled floor, its honey scent wafting gently. No microphone, no organ keys, just a handwritten psalterium and a flickering wick awaiting his cue. The candle's flame pulsed. Gregorios parted his lips, unleashing the deep opening note of the cherubic hymn. The low tone rolled, warming the tiles, rebounding off the eaves, spreading a soft vibrato veil, fine as woven mist. The corridor, built to choke kitchen smoke, became a perfect resonator. The note curled under wooden vaults, birthing a second harmonic and a third echo, weaving 3 concentric voices, a sung tone, a reflected hum, a whispered trace. They entwined, gliding through crescent windows, brushing bedroom thresholds, touching sleepers' eardrums with a lake wave's cool caress at dawn. The villa seemed to pause, rapt. The vacuum courtyard stilled its swirl. Grapevines hushed, leaves frozen. Carp ceased snapping pond foam. Laurel smoke, spent, lay trapped by the double walls. Indoor oil lamps, already dim, held their breath. Only sound waves traced the tiles, seeped into mortar, arced upward, and spilled over gray roof tiles like glowing liquid, warming the sky beyond the veranda with an ineffable glow. Sacred, trembling, serene. Domnina's calculus was simple. If smoke died in the first courtyard, coffers in the second corridor, then fear, finer than smoke, needed a third, softer barrier, music. She shunned mystic claims of sound waves purging miasma, but trusted heartbeats, and heartbeats, Theophanes taught, craved 60 to 65 beats per minute. Gregorios knew, so after the opening chant, he dropped pitch and volume, stretching Alleluia into murmurs, drawing each S M-N to hearing's edge, low notes braiding into a hazy interference pulse. When two near-amplitude tones aligned, they birthed a blanket beat, a faint, steady tap matching a resting pulse. Like your century's low-speed ceiling fan, it lulled the brain, synced the body's clock, calmed racing blood, and unshackled muscles. Leaning in a shadowed doorway, Domnina tilted her head, letting the low hum graze her brow. The honeystone wall, once cold, softened as if coated in sonic honey. She closed her eyes, picturing the outer walls where mass graves grew, shovels' clangs from afternoon, and smiled faintly as those sounds slipped from focus. Her mind reflexively muted anxious memories, cradling only the sacred hum. In the kitchen, a young cook pressed a hand to her chest, her heartbeat oddly syncing with the hymn's drone, steady, smooth as banana silk. A maid rinsing linens by the courtyard timed her breaths to the rhythm, shoulders dropping unaware. Theophanes, on the veranda's ledge, squinted, gauging ears, then logged mentally. This sound dilates wrist veins, a trick no Galen text taught. At the cherubic hymn's close, Gregorios didn't halt abruptly. He shut the psalterium, gathering the hum into his chest, opening a silent pause, dreaded by courtly lords as jarring, but here as vital as song. For 100 heartbeats, veranda winds replaced vocals, like a radio flipping to white noise, laced with distant gutter drips, sculpting an alpha wave cradle. Night's space nearly sealed, only moonlight's hairline swept silver across the floor, then retreated past the eaves. Gregorios lifted the candle, bowed, and withdrew to the corridor. His leather sandals clacked on brown tiles, echoing twice like Stephanos's night patrols. But now, even the double echo was velveted by the hymn's afterglow, edges dulled. The kitchen door shut. The dual corridors resumed filtering smoke and footsteps. The heart's filter was done, leaving the villa half dreaming. Edges of objects softened, oil lamp glows blended with moonlight, and death's name was barred by a fresh endorphin drip. Domnina climbed the honeystone stairs to her bedroom. Passing the corridor, she counted each tock. Talk of her steps echoing twice, ensuring the second filter held. At her door, she paused, dripping lavender oil on her wrist, a scented seal. The purple bloom fused with the hymn's fading notes, wrapping her heart in a second blanket. Her bedside candle burned lazily, casting amber arcs on plaster. She blew it out, letting true dark settle. A small window cracked open, admitting a breeze carrying the hymn's tale. A low vibration, now so faint it wove into her final thought. Tomorrow, the double walls will trap smoke. The corridor will echo steps. Gregorios might sing anew, or your distant fan will hum instead, so long as each night seals the mind with gentle waves. Outside, the crescent moon scaled the cypress peak, tilted like congealed beeswax, silvering the pond with rippling light. Golden carp arched in the glow, then curled beneath algae, leaving the water a mirror of quiet. Grapevines swayed lazily, young leaves folded in sleep. The smoke-filtering walls held their breath. All hung suspended in the low hymn's bubble, swelling to cocoon Para's roof. then softly sinking, lulling its dwellers, and you, listener, if ears linger, into a deep dream's basin, where heartbeats wrap in Smyrna honey, fear's leaks are quelled, and a still night adds one more tiny star to the galaxy's ceiling. Thin, early winter fog slithered from the Marmara Sea, crawling along Theodosian walls, spilling through Cherisio's gate, where 6 months ago Domnina's caravan had stumbled in retreat like anchovies fleeing silver waves. Now, that riveted iron gate cracked open under a new edict. The old plague ebbed. Trade needed blood to flow. The day it parted, heralded by merchants and speculators alike, Domnina's Tyrian silk gown brushed the capital's cobbled stones as the sun tilted, its first rays splintering on cracked marble. Her hem dragged dust, scraping a weary rustle, as if the fabric clung to Pera's sleeping veranda behind her. The city's air felt eerily sparse. Hoofbeats echoed faintly. Philo vendors' cries vanished. Only wooden cartwheels crunched something crisper than stone. Bone fragments scattered along Maze Street, mingled with pistachio shells and shattered tiles. The brittle snap, rebounding off the stained basilica wall beside, grated without shrieking, for half the people had fled, half lay beneath earth. Domnina paused, inhaling a blend of vinegar, lime dust, and withered flowers, then opened her notebook, reed pen scratching. Aurelia Bridge, 75% shops shuttered, soul-lit wealthy house, Methodios, silversmith. Within an hour, she spotted a prize bigger than a Malvasia cask. From Chrysia Gate to Augustean, 3 streets listed for sale. Former owners, a gambling merchant clan, 3 generations gone, left one wheezing heir gasping in a doorway, bartering bricks for grain. Real estate plunged deeper than harbor piers. A 2-story stone-vaulted house, back courtyard smoke-filtered, worth 40 numismata pre-plague, now crumbled under bargain hunters' steps. Domnina mused, picturing the numismata buried under Pera's wax cellar, and decided, buy all. Beeswax profits, candle margins, and early-season wax shorting stacked into a jingling golden ledger. That morning, she laid a gold sack on the city clerk's camphor-wood desk, lavender's antiseptic scent wafting from its seams, an old habit, making the scribe's trembling hand mark a legal corpse-sweep deal. The clerk, so gaunt his pen-hand veins bulged, dipped ink on goatskin, drafting the deed. The quill rasped faintly, yet lines cut sharp. Transfer of lot, east adjacent Zeusippos baths, 12 numismata, with deceased tax exemption. The last clause swept dust off tombstones, cold but silver-scented. Domnina doused the deed with a lavender drop, folded it, slipped it into a copper tube, sealing it with fresh wax. Unpoetic, yet sweeter than the phenol reek haunting the half-empty scribe's chamber. Crossing Augustean Square, she gazed at Justinian's bronze equestrian statue, its eyes glistening with acid rain tears. At its base, once packed with cloth hawkers, incense peddlers, carpet pullers, now lay bare as a stage post curtain, leaf litter swirling into tiny rolls. Domnina counted steps, her silk heels echoing twice as far. the crowd's canopy gone. She clicked her tongue. Loud echoes meant empty space, and empty space meant empty land prices. A plague-drained market was profit's perfect swing. Athens under Pericles taught it. Post-plague, wastelands birthed fields for new wealth. Now, Constantinople replayed it. New cast, same script. Stocks crash, bold hands grab. Noon's sun faded. Domnina visited the notary's office on Mese, signing for a third lot, a rental block by the old fish market. The handover reeked of dried fish and lime, but monks were shifting a temporary market there. Her foresight saw rental cash spinning like spider silk on honeystone. 3 nomismata, half a Tyrian gown's cost. As her pen marked the deed, the notary's clerk sniffled, muffling mold's stench. Domnina dabbed her last lavender drop, easing death's cling from the parchment. Dusk loomed, mule cartwheels rolling from Via Referendarius to the gate, grinding bones. Not metaphor, but real rib shards mixed in paving dust. Domnina bade the driver dodge them like mud puddles, unflinching. Triumph steeped in antiseptic. Her face reflected in the cart's bronze panel, cheeks flushed from wind, now dried of fog's kiss. As the cart passed Carisios' gate, she glanced back. It was closing. Court allowed 3 hours' passage for permit holders. Those lingering outside, eyes dull as dead fish, where would they go? The question hovered, but her land ledger snapped shut, wax sealed. The cart left the city, winding down a fog-clad slope toward Pera, wheels muffled on wet gravel. Above, the sky turned pearl gray. Pera's vineyard ovens puffed faint cinnamon laurel smoke, threading the hill's throat. In the cabin, Domnina reviewed her ledger. Assets quadrupled pre-plague, 2 physicians, wax stores brimming, a portrait of a plague-era real estate queen complete. She smiled, honey bitter. When stocks crash, history whispers, someone profits. That thought, in any era, trails crises. Only garments change. Profit still smells of sanitizer. Nearing the villa, sea winds grew heavy, cinnamon laurel signaling the vacuum gate's welcome. Stephanos lit a torch. Sparks danced on the wheels, no bone glint. For Pera's courtyard was swept clean. Domnina's steps met ceramic tiles, soundless. Tomorrow's sonic hymn awaited. Within the walls, the city's bounty slept. Deeds, keys, lavender's sterile bloom. Night fell. Chance would rise. The villa's pulse held steady, though beyond, the corpse market fluctuated. Distant listener, in your century, red ticker tapes or crash alerts will flare. When they do, recall the cartwheel's grinding bones. As communal pain shatters, deft hands gather. Unfair? Yes. But history's blade stays firm. Who catches the crash's rhythm, seizes rebirth's beat. If your heart races, swap it for a low-speed fan's hum, like a hymn, easing veins, soothing nerves. Then fold your blanket, sleep. Come dawn, stocks or land fallen, you'll rise calm, heart uncrushed by life's wheels. And perhaps, one day, when your city's gate opens, you'll step through empty space, claiming cheap peace from panic's leavings. Constantinople's sky dulled to pigeon gray as Domnina ascended the marble steps to Hagia Sophia's vestibule. 6 months of plague had stripped half the city's human breath, yet the basilica's vast dome gleamed heedless under dry winter sun, its blue-gold mosaic tiles reflecting only God, blind to the weary streets below. Tucked in Domnina's silk sleeve were a deed's copy from recent land buys, uninvested profits, and, crucially, a small receipt proving she'd paid for a new silver votive lamp. Methodios, the jeweler who survived the plague by hiding 3 months in a wine cellar, forged the lamp over 4 nights. Pure silver, melted and poured into ash-dusted clay molds, was hammered with wooden chisels into a shell-thin vessel, its surface rippling with luster. On its body, he etched 6 Greek letters: Domnina Philanthropos, Domnina, the philanthropist. She'd demanded deep cuts, just enough for candlelight to catch the grooves, casting a distinct glow, like a verified badge on a future timeline. Engraving cost? Over half a gold tremissus, but she logged it under public relations in her profit ledger. 0.5% of gains from 3 city blocks, roughly a pre-plague beeswax block's price. A seed of blessing. That morning, before draping her long cloak, she'd instructed servants to rub laurel leaves inside the lamp, not for exorcism, but to mask the sweat of porters. Soon, 2 Isaurian youths shouldered the oak chest holding the lamp, trailing Domnina into the benefactor's side hall. The hall was silent, save for footsteps echoing on cloud-veined marble. Last night's frankincense hung faint, blue smoke wisps high, turning the space into a jade chalice drained of glaze. The lamp dedication was startlingly brief. A deacon in white linen greeted her, presenting a parchment with both hands. Lamp number 6029, second nave, lower row, left presbytery, donor's name to be read at next Pentecost. Domnina pressed a lavender seal on the corner, then stepped back 3 paces, melting into shadow. The deacon and porters set the lamp on a pre-fitted silver stand, lighting it with a beeswax candle. As wax burned, the small flame patiently climbed the olive oil-soaked wick, sipped air, and flared into a steady amber drop. The philanthropos grooves burst into a soft halo, bathing a bronze offering plate below, making the letters not just readable, but silently singing to nearby eyes. From a dim corner, Domnina watched the pilgrims' reactions. Coarse-robed women seeking prayers were few, but all glanced at the engraved name, positioned at eye level. Spotting the new lamp, they bowed, touching foreheads to marble, murmuring supplications, some for husbands, others for children. A woman, about 40, in twice-patched clothes, drew a pine resin candle, pinky-sized, from her sleeve, lit it from Domnina's lamp, and pressed it into the plate's sand. The second flame joined the silvers, curling pale green smoke, its honeyed char evoking Para's vacuum courtyard. Perfect. Her lamp now a server, sharing free light with the poor. Hat blessed, for a benefactor's flame never dies. Word of Domnina's lamp spread like a hymn echoing the dome. By noon, whispers buzzed at the market's edge. Saint Domnina, Savior Lady. A dried fig vendor swore he saw a purple halo around the lamp, though the hue was just her Tyrian silk's glint. Invisible hashtags flared. Domnina's mental calculator ticked. 48 follis for the lamp, 0.5% of profits. Bought a reputation lever. Tomorrow, rental kiosk prices by the old fish market could nudge up 5 coins. No one crying gouging, for the owner was a saint's kin. Gray-pink dusk fell as Domnina left Hagia Sophia. The square's tiles lay bare, a lone cart's wheels limping. East winds carried phenol's disinfectant bite. Suddenly, a woman's voice rang. "Thanks to the saint's grace." Domnina glanced, catching only a brown cloak vanishing under a side gate. She pulled her scarf higher, hiding a half-smile. Kindness wasn't free, just traded currency, from denarius to hashtag, ledger to legacy. Once etched in silver, who'd dare erase the gain? On the road to Pera, sunset smeared a final rouge streak on the city walls, the sky mirroring her candle's honeyed drip. In the cart's cabin, she opened her ledger, striking the PR column's 0.5%, noting, "Bridge for new tax talks, next quarter." The reed pen glided, steady. The cart swayed. Wheels crossed the last bone shards on the street, their dry crack faint. This time, Domnina only bowed her head, a silent prayer for others' pain, or rather an answer to the saint hashtag freshly pinned. On an early summer night, Pera's sky gleamed so clear that constellations, fine as silver threads, sketched a miniature Hagia Sophia dome against the dark. The villa lay still, its dual vacuum corridors hushed, laurel smoke asleep, the last candle on its copper stand snuffed half an hour ago. In the study overlooking the carp pond, Domnina sat on a faded green linen couch, a thin Isaurian wool blanket draped over her lap. The children, 11 and 8, curled in a half circle, backs to the wall, eyes sparkling with the dying hearth's embers. Past bedtime, they begged for the plague story one last time before leaving Pera for the city's autumn school term. Domnina smiled, brushing the elder's sun-bleached brown hair, then leaned forward, letting memory's weight settle into her voice. "The secret to survival," she began, her tone low and rough from a year's healed coughs, "wasn't grand. Dodge crowds, keep your purse full, and pray. Just enough." The kids giggled. Full purse sounded like a fish market merchant's quip, but fell silent as the window's hinge creaked ruck. Rich. Night breeze slipped through, nudging a white linen curtain embroidered with vines, swaying in sync with the listeners' easing hearts. The curtain billowed, fell, billowed, like an invisible iron lung lulling young pulses from past storms. Domnina let the breeze set the rhythm, speaking slowly, each sentence matching the curtain's sway, each paragraph punctuated by the frame's faint groan as aged wood shifted. She spoke of early plague mornings, Macy market tiles crumbling like stale bread, funeral bells clanging like spoons on empty pots. The dread of death tolls longer than a Black Friday receipt. The younger child shivered. The elder pressed a hand to their brow, as if donning an imaginary cap against last winter's chill. But Domnina didn't linger on tragedy. She pivoted to the villa's edges. Dual smoke-filtering corridors, a vacuum courtyard, nightly hymns smoothing nerves. "We lived," she concluded. Because of high walls? Partly. Because silver stitched a medical net? True. But also because we didn't let our minds drift with the screaming crowd. Her final words carried a gentle push, like nudging a word boat toward wisdom's shore, not ambition's. Outside, the wind shifted, the curtain twisted, hearth ash swirled faintly. The children blinked, heads nearly drooping onto each other's shoulders. Domnina drew the wool blanket higher over their chests, sinking back into the chair, slipping briefly into a half-waking, half-dreaming haze. In that liminal glow, memories flooded. Cartwheels grinding bone dust, lavender on red wax scrolls, hymns gliding through corridors, and the saint banner fluttering in a barren market. They fused into two images, a psychological scar coiling her heart like a silk noose, and the honey-stone villa on its hill, double walls filtering smoke, vacuum courtyard swallowing stress, wax stores brimming. She thought, scars and stone and scars, equal in weight. Walls might stand a century, but the tale of rats breaching the lime shed would haunt 4 generations. Fair, for memory must match the mortar's burden. The elder child whispered, dream or waking, she couldn't tell. "Grandma, were you scared?" Domnina paused, letting the curtain sway once, then murmured back, "Terrified. But fear doesn't stop steps. Step past the plague market, past rumors, past panic's fire sale." Her words blended with the breeze, as if the wind itself taught the lesson. Time slowed. In a room's corner, the water clock's last drop fell. Tink, then stilled. The hearth's glow died, leaving gray-red coals like a cat's half-closed eyes. On a low table, the profit ledger lay shut, a dried laurel sprig atop it, Domnina's period mark. She'd let it rest in a chest, for memory outweighed numbers when survivors chose to stop racing. The younger child snored softly, head tilted, a lock of hair on their cheek. The elder shifted, palm grazing the laurel, unconsciously pledging to recall the smoke's scent, the sonic balm, the wry full purse lesson. Domnina cupped the oil lamp, leaving the curtain open. She wanted moonlight to linger, bathing the vacuum courtyard's walls, a reminder to the children of dull architecture's worth. A final gust stirred, the curtain billowing, falling, billowing, its rustle matching the trio's steady breaths. The plague had retreated, but its echo, a scar under her cloak's collar, would resonate each time night's linen swayed. Yet the Honeystone Villa, tempered by trial, breathed with its mistress, shielding children raised in peace. If you're lying in a 21st century bed, your ceiling fan humming like that linen curtain, borrow its rhythm to lull you. Picture an imagined vacuum courtyard where day's fumes suffocate before reaching dreams. Envision a wordless hymn, your fan's pulse cradling your heart. Then let newsroom numbers fall, close your mental ledger. For the final secret, unchanged since 542, holds: dodge virtual crowds, keep your calm's purse full, and pray just enough, by words or a long breath. The curtain has swayed, hinges hushed. Now sleep under your roof, letting survivors' legacy, Stone walls or hidden scars pillow your storm-cleared night. The early summer sky over Pera gleamed, the Milky Way arching past the cypress tops like a silver crack, reminding mortals that all works, be it capital or empire, are but fragile mortar wedged between infinite voids. In the oak-paneled study, the last oil lamp's flicker trembled on the marble table, where Domnina's handwritten manuscript lay open to its final page. A reed pen, green ink vial, and dried laurel sprig formed a triangle, awaiting eternal closure. By the window, a salt-tinged sea breeze nudged the linen curtain, swaying the lamp's glow, casting a round halo on the honey-stone wall's gray etchings. The scene was a small stage, its lullaby script nearing curtain fall, yet the author left a parting note. Legacy, or warning. Constantinople, the Mediterranean's jeweled crown, fell from history's brow in spring 1453. Theodosian walls, Domnina's bulwark against plague, shattered under Ottoman cannons, lime-coated stones bursting like sea foam on shore. Yet that cataclysm, earth-shaking, couldn't drown a quieter, persistent whisper. In calamity, the silvered build higher walls, while the penniless face graves dug a layer deeper. True in 542, when Domnina's diary was born. True in 1453, and lurking in countless outbreak tickers since. At each slope to Mises market, imagine fleeing cannon blades mirroring plague-time scrambles. Crowds jostle, some fall. The victors always those with golden walls. These aren't just stone, sometimes credit lines, ICU beds, or evacuation flight passes. Their essence unchanged, one side high, one low. History here is a sea-smoothed pebble. No euphemisms needed. A wave of the hand reveals inequality's grain. Yet beneath that gray crust glint mica flecks of hope. In Justinian's plague, Domnina unwittingly left 3 clues for posterity. Her case ledger, clumsy numbers, spiking and dipping weekly, the first pollen of epidemic curves later etched on modern LED screens. Dual vacuum corridors, instinctive architecture, birthing airflow control, negative pressure filtration in future hospitals. Expense diary, listing salt, wax, lives costs, exposing disaster's market surf. Facing it strips illusions of holding hands sufficing. Thus, her rough goatskin isn't just a mosaic tile's gleam, it's a clouded mirror reflecting our era. N95 masks for mastic fumes, ECMO beds for silver lamps, pharmastock charts for wax blocks. The syntax repeats, new directors, new sets, and we, the cast. Pera's night was quieter than any before. The breeze had fled, leaving the steady breaths of Domnina's great-grandchildren asleep next door. She lifted the manuscript, fingers grazing its frayed edge, as if touching time's scales. On the final margin, the faintest ink sealed. Dodge crowds. Keep purse full. Pray just enough. In truth, 3 variables of an unequal equation. Space, wealth, spirit. Miss one, survival slips. Master all, you might outlast fate's next comma. But Domnina knew. Even those clutching all 3 bore scars. They recalled cartwheels grinding bone dust, death lists long as cloth bolts, a child's eyes with no second gate to flee. Those scars snaked the mind, yet spurred higher walls, more wax, another healer. The cycle reset. Listener in the 21st century, closing your screen, you grapple with, after 15 centuries, how are we different? Vastly, perhaps. Ventilators, mRNA vaccines, global aid nets. Yet not so much. Outbreak ledgers still fatten, and privilege lacks a bleach. The question isn't, where's justice, but can we pull more over the wall before the next stone falls? That's the warning, also the legacy. The legacy shows wind's direction. The warning notes it may shift. The lesson lies in nightly choices. Share half your silver lamp, or etch philanthropos deeper into your fame's vault. The study's oil lamp flickered its last, its dying glow chasing the slow ceiling fan's spin. You, across the screen, hear the fan's hum weave into the tale's pulse. Let that soft white noise be your hymn, easing your heart to rest. Inhale deeply. Imagine warm wood laced with pine resin. Exhale. Set inequality's weight beside the day's shoes, forgotten with the crowd. Night is late, the goatskin closed, the lamp dry. Only starlight streaks the sky's brow. Sleep soundly, and if dawn brings red ticker crashes, heed Domnina's warning. Some will profit, but there's space to sow hope. If you look past the wall, fill a grave's lair, light one more lamp not yet carved with your name.